All right, so I just introduced myself. I said my name is Adeze Princess Nnabuife, and I'm taking you on stress management, the ability to manage stress. We call it stress management. We're going to examine types of stress, the origin of stress, body system, adaptation syndrome, symptoms, stress awareness, stress at work, and how to manage stress. But before we proceed, let's take a look at these two legal extracts from the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974, Section 2, Subsection 1. It says, and I quote, "It shall be the duty of every employer to ensure, so far as it is reasonably practicable, the health, safety, and welfare at work of all employees." I'm going to take that again. It is the duty of every employer to ensure, so far as it is reasonably practicable, the health, safety, and welfare at work of all employees. Okay, now the second legal extract is for the management, the management of health and safety at work regulations of 1999. And it says, every employer shall make a suitable, sufficient assessment of the risks to the health and safety of his employees to which they are exposed while they are at work. I'll read that again. Every employer shall make a suitable and sufficient assessment of the risks to the health and safety of his employees to which they are exposed while they are at work. Now, this is very important because it has been established that the workplace generates a high level of stress. And sometimes both the employers and the employees are really unaware that there are regulations guiding the workplace. So whether you are an employer or an employee, it is important that you understand this legal guiding principle. An employer should understand that their staff have the right to mental and physical health, safety, and welfare. An employee should also know that they are not slaves and that they have rights. But before we dive right in, I would like us to know that, this topic, just as all other classes in emotional intelligence, are all practical classes. They really are all practical because there are things that we can easily relate to. So, are we ready for this class? If yes, please type yes in the chat room and then we'll get started. If you're ready for this, please type yes in the chat room and then we'll get started. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Esther Ojo. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Adipimpe. Thank you, Tyrell, Azizat, Dixon, Victor. Thank you so much. Now I'm sure we're ready and we are going to get started. All right. So first off, let us start with what stress is. What is stress? Stress is the reaction people have to excessive pressures or other types of demand placed upon them. It arises when they worry they just can't cope. In other words, stress is the wear and tear of minds and body experience as we attempt to cope with our continually changing environment. We could also say that stress occurs when the pressure to get things done is greater than the resources to see it through. Let me take that again. We could say that stress occurs when the pressure to get things done is greater than the resources to see it through. So in truth, stress can bring about a lot of feelings. A lot of feelings. When you find yourself worrying over certain things, you're tensed up, always physically, mentally, and emotionally tired or drained out. Some event or happening scares the light out of you or leaves you depressed, anxious, or really angry. Just pause for a moment and ask yourself, yourself, am I being stressed? You really should do that once in a while, because sometimes the stress of life can really drive you nuts. But when all of that is happening, take a pause and ask yourself, self, am I being stressed? Understanding your emotions under various circumstances can help you know when you are being stressed. In general, there are two types of stressors. They have the external and the internal stressors. A stressor is simply any agent or activity that causes stress to an organism. Okay, so let's look at external stressors. External stressors could be derived from the physical environment, social interaction, organization or workplace, major life events, and daily hassles. Now let's break it down. Physical environment. If you live in a noisy environment where you go to sleep in noise and wake up in the morning with a lot of noise, as a matter of fact, the noise gets to wake you up in the morning, or in fact, even before you get to wake up in your dream, the noise is getting right into your dream, and you're unable to even enjoy a sweet dream. You wake up and then there's a lot of noise. You will not be able to think or function properly during the day. What about heat? The heat these days, especially in this part of the world, has been really, really bad. It has been so, so terrible. I don't know about those of you in Ghana or in different other parts of Africa or other parts of the world. I don't know, but for Nigeria, the heat has been something else. And sometimes you just wish that you could have AC in the bedroom, in the toilet, in the sitting room, in your car, in your office. And if it's possible to have a mobile AC where you get to, cool you have to condition the air as you walk on the road, you would want to get one because the heat is just out of it. Now tell me, is it possible that if you're working in an environment where you have a lot of heat dripping down and then you have to get things done, that you'll be able to put yourself together to do something really productive with all that heat directly on your head and then the sweat and all of that? It could cause a lot of stress, a lot of stress. And then some persons also feel stressed when they feel that they are left in an enclosed environment, maybe a confined space. They feel choked and unable to breathe, and it causes a lot of stress to them. What about social interaction? What if you find yourself in an environment where people are rude to you? Everyone is competitive and aggressive, and your boss probably is not a very approachable person and is extremely bossy. And as if all of these are not bad enough, you still have to contend with bullying. Of course, these are situations that can rob you of peace of mind and stress you out eventually. Organization or workplace. Then again, your workplace, right? If you work in a place where there are so many rules and regulations, red tapes and deadlines, the pressure not to break these rules will be so much on you. You see yourself constantly standing on your toes to ensure that the do's and don'ts of the organizations are carefully kept. The struggle to meet short deadlines can cause you a lot of stress. A lot of persons may develop high blood pressure or other stress-related health conditions as a result. So stress at workplace is real. What about major life events? Major life events such as the death of the death of a child, the death of a loved one, loss of job, promotion, marital status change. When some of these things happen, sometimes it could be one or two or more happening simultaneously. They could cause anxiety, mental or emotional stress. you agree with me that these events are not so easy to manage. For example, think of the all-round stress you had to manage when you lost your family member, for example, or that close friend of yours. It could be very devastating. Okay, daily hassle. A lot of people have turned down very lucrative jobs because they live very far away from the workplace. Take, for example, if you live in Lagos, Badagry to be precise, and you got a job on the island, and you will need to resume at about, say, 7:30 a.m. and close at about 6 p.m. When you consider the traffic, the distance, and the stress, that job may not be so appealing anymore. Please, if you're listening and you live in Lagos, please can you tell us if you might just tell us if there is a shortcut from Badagry to the island? Is there anyone from Badagry to the island where if you have a job on the island, it might just be easy for you to take through the shortcut and you get there in say 30 minutes or an hour? Is there any? Because the last time I checked, it is really impossible. If there's any, please let us know in the chat room. Distance has caused a lot of people getting the kind of jobs that they would want to get because they live far away from where the work is situated. So they end up turning down that job, or they relocate to the place so that it will be easy for them to get access to the job place. And that could cause a lot of stress. Misplaced keys can also cause a lot of stress and panic. Have you ever lost your keys before? You have a bunch of keys, and the keys probably keys to maybe a lot of doors in your house, so plus your car keys, plus your house keys and your drawers and everything. You have all the keys in one bunch, and then you lost it. It can cause a lot of panic and stress. What about mechanical breakdown? Mechanical breakdown. Maybe you're driving and all of a sudden your car decides to break down in the middle of nowhere, or you are maybe your production plant decides to grind to a stop in the middle of production. These things can literally drive you insane, and it will cause a lot of stress, a lot of panic. All right, so we've considered external stressors. Now let's take a look at some internal stressors. Remember, we said that stressors are agents or activities that causes stress, right? Okay, now here are internal stressors. Internal stressors can be lifestyle choices, negative self-talk, mind traps, personality traits. We're going to break it down. We'll break it down. Life choices. Some of us really enjoy taking coffee or caffeine products. But do you know that consuming a lot of caffeine, having a lack of sleep, overloaded schedule, or change in diet can cause you stress? When these things are not properly managed, of course, they will result in a lot of stress. Negative self-talk. We've been talking about positive self-talk from Dr. Banito to Dr. Eze, Ifoma Eze. And then we know the power of positive self-talk and negative self-talk. Negative self-talk. Do you always tell yourself, nah, I can't do this? No, these people are all better than me. Nah, I can't, I don't have what it takes. As a matter of fact, I can't, I don't, I shouldn't, I wouldn't, so I can't, and I can't, and I can't. Do you focus on all the what ifs? Do you criticize your every action, your every inaction? If you do that, you might need to pause and think of the effect it could have on you, because those things are very negative. Mind traps. Unrealistic expectations, taking things personally, exaggeration, having a myopic thinking or a straight jacket form of thinking, and all of that are not really a very good way to handle yourself. It causes a lot of emotional havoc when you start doing this. When you deliberately refuse to accept that the most constant thing in life is change, you definitely will get stressed out, because when you keep working or doing things the old way and you expect it to flow with the present realities, you'll get frustrated. You definitely would get frustrated. And that's the basic truth. So why we just we've taken this, we've seen this the way it is, and there's just no way we can change it because it is the truth. We have to work on this so that we don't box ourselves in by ourselves in a very difficult circumstance or situation that we might find it difficult to extricate ourselves from. Now that takes us to the two types of stress. It was interesting to know that not all stresses are bad. We have the good ones and the bad ones. But before we take these ones, I would like to know if I am being heard. Can we all hear me? If we can't hear me, please type yes in the chat room so I'll be sure that we're all on the same page. Everyone is hearing me and I've not been talking to myself. Please, can you hear me? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I almost thought I've been talking to myself. Thank you. I thought I've been talking to myself. Thank you, Pastor Ife. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for Lashadi, Pius, Azizat, Margaret, Rose. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Adebimpe. Yes, so we are together. Okay, so we've said that we have the good stress and the bad stress. Let's start from the bad one. Negative stress. It is a contributory headaches, complaints such as acne breakouts, insomnia, and ulcers. Excessive, prolonged, and unrelieved stress can have a harmful effect on mental, physical, and emotional and spiritual health. That's true. Sometimes we just have breakouts and we're not sure why exactly it is happening, and we're supposed to be okay, but then we have breakouts, we have acne, and all of that. When you look at it from another standpoint, it might just be that you're responding to stress. Your hormones are telling you that you have stressed yourself out, and the only way your body can be able to let you know that you have been thoroughly stressed is by showing it by, those breakouts, those acnes. So sometimes you really do not need all those cosmetics, estrogens and stuff to wipe your face. It doesn't really, what matters is how you manage your inside. When you're able to regulate yourself, you'll be surprised that the breakouts will just vanish and you'll be like, wow. And I didn't even apply anything. It just came and then it vanished. Positive stress. Yes, that's the good one now. Stress can also have a positive effect. It can motivate motivate you to be a better person. It can help you to be more aware. It can provide the stimulation to cope with challenging situations. Stress also provides the sense of urgency and alertness needed for the survival when confronting threatening situation, when confronted with threatening situations. Now, that is the positive effect of stress. It keeps you alert. It helps you know that you need to do more. You need to do better. It motivates you, pushes you to do better than just sitting down and expecting things to automatically happen. No, it helps you to do better. You see, humans are actually different. Everyone is different with unique perception of and reactions to events. There is no single level of stress that is optimal for all people. Some are more sensitive owing to experiences in childhood, the influence of teachers way back in school, the parents and religions. And most of the stress we experience might just be self-generated. Whether you agree or not, it is true. It might just be self-generated. How we perceive life, whether an event makes us feel threatened or stimulated, encouraged or discouraged, happy or sad, depends to a very large extent on how we, not other persons, how we perceive ourselves. So self-generated stress is something of a paradox. I think I put it that way. It's more of a paradox because so many people think of external causes when they're upset, but in reality, it might just be from within. It might just be how you choose to react or respond to circumstances within or beyond your control. So recognizing that we create most of our own upsets is an important first step towards coping with them. Please, this is very important. Very important. Okay, if we start blaming everything on everyone else instead of looking inwards to see how we can regulate stress from within, we might not be solving the problem. We might not be doing things the right way. So understanding that sometimes this stress could be generated from within will help us to know how to cope with them. All right, so coping with them brings us to endocrine system. Okay, so the endocrine system is stress response. Stress is the way our body responds to stress. So stress response is controlled by the endocrine system. Demands on the physical or mental system of the body result in hormone secretion, such as adrenaline or testosterone. When the endocrine system responds to stress, you will see an increased pupil dilation, perspiration, the person will start sweating profusely, or there will be an increased heart rate and blood pressure. There will be rapid breathing, muscle tenseness, increased mental alertness. These are things that happens when your endocrine system is at work. Symptoms of stress. How do you know that you're being stressed? Please, I need you to take notes because this is very important. Sometimes we're stressed and we don't even know what is wrong with us. We're not even sure that these are symptoms of stress. So it's important that we take note of this so that anytime we are experiencing one or more of these symptoms, we'll be able to know that this is not malaria, it's not typhoid, and it might just not be COVID. No, it might just not be COVID-19. It might just be stress. So instead of blaming it on some illness, it's best that we get to take a study of ourselves and be able to know how really we are feeling. So be able to know where to generate the solution from or how to cope with them. We have the physical symptoms and the mental symptoms. Okay. Now, the physical symptoms are sleep pattern changes. You're easily fatigued or constipated, loss of sexual drive, frequent headaches, aches and pains, infection, indigestion, dizziness. You find yourself dozing off when you're idle. You feel faint. You're sweating and trembling. You have tingling hands and feet, breathlessness, palpitation, missed heartbeats. So when all these are happening, chances are that you are experiencing physical stress symptoms. Physical stress symptoms. Like with sleep, some of us have difficulty sleeping at night. But in the past, you used to close your eyes at night, and then when you open them, it's morning. But now your eyes will automatically spring open at 2 or 3 a.m. and then you find it difficult to go back to sleep. please, when that happens to you, don't immediately blame it on village people or spiritual attack. It might not just be that. You might just be having a physical symptom of stress, because your mind will keep wandering and wandering and you will be unable to go back to sleep. So please do not blame it on other things. It might just be that what you are experiencing is a physical symptom of stress. Okay, now the mental symptom of stress: lack of concentration, mental lapses, difficulty in making decisions, panic attacks, confusion. You get easily confused and disoriented. And all these are just symptoms of mental exhaustion and stress. And they happen to a lot of people many times. What about behavioral symptoms? Of course, there are behavioral symptoms of stress. You could observe them in yourself or maybe in someone else. If you have a staff or you work in a place, and then you start seeing that some of the people who work with you, your colleagues, are manifesting some of these symptoms, you might just know that they're having stress. Okay, one of it is loss of appetite, or you find yourself eating too much or craving sweet things or even massive loads of junk food. Increased intake of alcohol and other drugs, smoking or increased smoking, restlessness, fidgeting, nail biting, especially that nail biting. So people don't even know when they start doing that. It's very subconscious. They're talking to you or they're doing something and you see the hand just go to the mouth and they're biting the nail. It's not they're doing, it's not like they just enjoy biting the nails. It's a behavioral symptom of stress. Something is going on. They're uncomfortable about something, and then subconsciously they find themselves doing things that ordinarily, they wouldn't do them. That's stress. And that is why when those people lose their job or have problems with their spouse, they take solace in drinking alcohol. You see them in beer parlors in an attempt to drown their pain in alcohol. They just keep drinking and drinking and drinking, and they won't stop drinking. Okay, these are behavioral symptoms of stress, because normally these people would not do these things. They're just responding or reacting to stress. We're not saying that this is the best approach to stress. When you're having stress, we're not saying this is the best way to cope with it, but we are identifying some of those things that could happen to a person when they are stressed. Are we still together? Are we still together? Please type yes if we are still together. All right, thank you, Chiaka. Thank you, Taiwo. I just needed to know if we're still together. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Hope about you. Okay, so we are still together. We have just talked about behavioral symptoms of stress. Now let's talk about the emotional symptoms of stress. Bouts of depression is one of it, which if left unchecked could drive a person to committing suicide. And sadly, a lot of persons have ended up that way. They start just like, little bouts of depression, and then it starts accumulating. And sometimes people don't even notice these things. People don't even notice that the next person is depressed. They don't know. They're just, overwhelmed with other things of life, and they're focusing on their own stuff. And then the next thing they hear is that, oh, that person committed suicide. And they're like, but why? Why now? But they saw the signs, but they just didn't take notes. We all should be our brothers and sisters keepers. And so we should be aware of our environment, aware of the next person, aware of ourselves. When you start experiencing depression and it's accumulating little by little, please seek help. Don't wait for it to build up to the point where you feel like there's no need to keep on living, that if you end your life, you're doing a lot of persons a huge favor. No, that is not true. It's a symptom of emotional stress that when it is arrested at an early stage, it will not deteriorate to the point where the person decides to take his or her own life. Please, let's be very careful. Impatience, fits of anger or rage, tearfulness. You can't just explain why you always feel like crying. Every little thing brings tears to your eyes. You might just be experiencing an emotional symptom of stress. Deterioration of personal hygiene and appearance. You don't care about yourself anymore. You don't care about how you look anymore. You just want to be left alone. Has anyone in this class experienced heartbreak before? You had that person who broke your heart. I know the feeling could be really, really, really intense. And people who have experienced heartbreak before have gone through one or multiple of these emotional symptoms. Oh, Margaret, you have it. We all have at one time or the other in our lives. People just do things, and then at the end of the day, you'll be like, but I didn't see that coming. I didn't know it was going to be like that. And then you start asking yourself a lot of questions. Maybe if I had done this better, or if I didn't do this, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And all those things going through your head. When all of that is going on, you see yourself exhibiting one or more of these emotional symptoms. Heartbreak. It is well. Okay, so let's go to the other one. Stress-related illnesses. Stress-related illnesses. Stress is not the same as ill health. No, it's not. But it has been related to such illnesses as cardiovascular disease, immune system disease, asthma, diabetes, digestive disorders, ulcers, skin complaints, headaches and migraines, premenstrual syndromes, and then again, depression. So when you're experiencing these things, you might believe that you have typhoid and malaria, like I said before. And you know, the interesting part is that when you go to the hospital and you run all the tests in the book, the result might come out negative. But you're having symptoms identical to these serious health problems. That is what stress can do to you. It can mess up your organs, mess up your hormones, mess up your health, mess up your attitude, mess up everything. Stress is very powerful, very powerful. So that is why this falls under emotional intelligence, stress management, understanding that sometimes when you're stressed out, you could have symptoms of serious health problems. And then you go to the hospital and you run those tests, and then you're negative, but then you're still having those problems. I don't know if it has happened to you before. And then you do all those tests, and at the end of the day, it all comes out negative, but you're still feeling sick. You're having headache. You're not okay. And some people might just say, maybe village people are at work, or maybe something. I don't know who I've offended, though. You probably have not offended anyone. You are having stress. It's not typhoid, it's not malaria, it is stress. Okay, so we have to take note of these things. Stress is very powerful. All right, now, stress at work. Stress at work is a different level of stress on its own. But we're going to consider this because from the beginning, I said that the workplace is one place that generates a very, very high level of stress. Okay, so now we're going to talk about stress at work. And that's because when we work, we struggle to provide an income that fills a variety of other needs. And at the end of the day, we expect to have a feeling of self-worth and competence. That's the reason why we go to work. And that's why we struggle hard to work. But then the factors influencing work stress are the need to succeed, changing work patterns, working condition, overwork, underwork, uncertainty, conflict between colleagues or employers and employees, skirmishes, increasing responsibilities, relationships at work, change at work. These things could cause a lot of stress. And let's break it down. Changing work patterns. Many people feel fortunate to have a job. You and I know how most people feel about unemployed graduates. The moment you tell someone you're currently unemployed, the way they look at you immediately changes. They just start looking at you from a different standpoint, with a different perspective. The attitude towards you might also change. So unemployment, redundancy, shorter working weeks, new technology affect emotional and physical security. Working condition. Physical and mental health is adversely affected by unpleasant working conditions. I'm sure you will agree with me. Physical and mental health is adversely affected by unpleasant working conditions. Would you be comfortable working in a place where the working condition is terrible, highly unpleasant? You wake up in the morning and you think about going to work and you're like, that place again. You will not be happy doing that. You will not even be very productive at your place of work because you don't like what you do. You're not happy doing it, but you just have to for some reasons. So it could cause a lot of stress. And then we have high noise levels, temperature, and unsocial or excessive working hours. Working from morning till night, no matter how much salary you get at the end of the month, is not fun. Except the person doesn't mind as long as he gets to stay away from the problems at home. Because sometimes when some people choose to stay at work for long, even all up into the night, it might be, I'm not saying it happens all the time. I'm saying sometimes it might be that the person is, choosing between, the devil and the deep blue sea. Like, it's better I stay late at work. It's like, I just can't deal with the problem in the house. So you see them, they just work late deliberately so that they can get to close late. And then when they go home, they just tiptoe, take a shower, eat if there's food. If there's none, they just don't mind. They go to bed. Early morning, they wake up and they escape the house. Okay, so some people don't mind, but in very normal circumstance, the working condition like that, working from morning to night, is not very ideal. Now, overwork, stress may occur through an inability to cope with the technical or intellectual demands of a particular task. Circumstances such as long hours, unrealistic deadlines, and frequent interruption will compound this. What about underwork? Do you fall under this category? Boredom. You just don't do a lot of things at work, or that is if you even do. Sometimes some people, the kind of work they do is they clock in, the moment they get in, they sit down and watch movies and chat and, gossip, or maybe just do any other thing other than work because there's really nothing to be done. And then when it's time to close, they clock out, take the bag, go home, and, like that. Okay, this may arise from boredom, like it said, because there is not enough to do, or because the job is dull, unexciting, and repetitive. Boredom can cause idleness, and an idle mind breeds evil. So says a wise old woman. I call her my personal celebrity, my grandmother. I'm sure you've heard something like that before. There are other things people say about an idle mind. Okay. So an underwork can cause a lot of mental stress, or it can give room for a lot of things that normally you would never, ever, ever do, or even think about doing. Uncertainty is yet another one we have to consider. Uncertainty about the individual's work role, objectives, responsibilities, and expectations, and a lack of communication and feedback can result in confusion, helplessness, and stress. Conflicts. Stress can arise from work the individual does not want to do, or that conflicts with their personal, social, and family values. What about responsibilities? The greater the level of responsibility, the greater the potential level of stress. Have you been newly promoted, or were you ever promoted at some point? You feel tense. You feel like, I need to prove that I can do this. I need to prove that I can get this work done. I need to prove that this responsibility is something that is, I mean, it's not so much of a difficult task. Even if it is difficult, I can surmount it. That pressure to be able to prove can cause a lot of stress. What about relationships at work? Good relationships with colleagues are crucial. Open discussion is essential to encourage positive relationships. What about changes at work? Changes that alters physiological, psychological, and behavioral routines such as promotion, retirement, and redundancy are particularly stressful. Ask retirees and newly promoted staff at the wake of the new reality that this is what they are going to be this is what they're going to be passing through, that stress level becomes high until they are able to adjust. Retirees find it difficult to understand that this change is real until after some time, because they're very used to that work routine where they get to wake up in the morning, go to work, work, and then come back home. And all of a sudden, there's a new reality that they have to stay home. You know, it's puts a lot of stress on many of them. And then we've talked about the stress level of people who have just gained promotion at work. Okay, now we are going to talk about self-help. Self-help. This statement is true. Not all the stress we experience is generated at work. Not all of them is generated at work. I'd like us to share this statement. Not all the stress we experience is generated at work. By the time you have that at the back of your mind, it will help you know that you don't blame everything on your workplace. Some are self-generated, some are generated at work, some are generated at other environments. We're going to find out more about this, but I just thought I should share this with you. Recognize the problem. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be fast because I wouldn't want to be caught. I wouldn't want to be halfway the class and then my time is up. Okay, so if you notice that I'm trying to hurry up, it's because I don't want to go behind time. So here we are at recognize the problem. Recognize the problem. The most important point is to recognize the source of the negative stress. This is not an admission of weakness or inability to cope. No, it is not. It is a way to identify the problem and plan measures to overcome it. One way we can do this is by having a stress control strategy. Please take notes because this is really very important. First of all, you need to be aware of what causes your stress and how you react to it. Knowing the ABC of stress control can help you know how to apply the stress management technique. Okay, now the first of it is the A, awareness. What causes you stress? How do you react to it? When you're able to ask yourself this soul-searching question, it will help you to know how to manage the stress. Imagine you're having problems and you don't know what is causing it, and you don't even understand how you react to it. And that's because you're not paying attention. You have to pay attention. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. Pay attention. Paying attention will help you understand what these stressors, what those stressors are, and then how you react to them. When you do that, it will help you to know what to do or the technique to manage them. The other thing is the B, balance. Balance. There is a fine line between positive and negative stress. We've said that before. How much can you cope with before it becomes negative? At first, you're coping with it, is the positive stress, is motivating you, is pushing you, is helping you to achieve, it's helping you to succeed, is pushing you, moving you, you're achieving, you're succeeding. And before you know it, it's becoming overwhelming. How do you get to know when you're crossing the line? when it is no longer positive, when it's now becoming negative? How do you get to know? It's very important that you get to study yourself and know when you're crossing the line. How much can you cope with before it becomes negative? This is very important that you know this. It will help you to know when you've gotten to your limits. It helps you to know when you are gradually exceeding your limits. It is when you start exceeding your limits that the stress begins to tell on you. Some people that have gray hairs, it's not because that the gray hair is because they are old. At 25, it's not even genetics. You just start seeing gray hairs like that. Research has shown that stress is one of the factors that causes premature graying, Stress could do that. So you need to put yourself in check to know when you are crossing the line, so you'll be able to strike a balance. What about the C? Control. What can you do to help yourself combat the negative effects of stress? There are things you can do to do that. First, think about the stress management techniques, and we're going to discuss that. Change your thinking. That's number one. Change your thinking. We have said earlier that most of the stress we have is self-generated. It comes from within. It comes from how we think about things, how we see things, how we perceive things, how we react to things, how we respond to things. It's from the inside. So when you change the way you think, it could help you to see things from a different, better perspective. Change your behavior, change your lifestyle. When you change your behavior and change your lifestyle, it will help you to be better. It will help you to see things differently, to help you to do things differently. And then you're giving yourself the help you need. So you don't get overwhelmed. You don't get to that point where you break down and then you start having all those symptoms of things that you don't have, of sicknesses you don't have, just because you have exceeded your limits. Get organized. Get organized. Poor organization is one of the most common causes of stress. Structured approaches offer security against out-of-the-blue problems. Prioritizing objectives, duties, and activities makes them manageable and achievable. Do not overload your mind. Do not overload your mind. When you start overloading your mind, you start causing trouble for yourself. Sometimes it's very important that we take things one step at a time. When you start overloading your mind and you're thinking about tomorrow and next year and the year after and all of that, it overwhelms you. It overwhelms you. Take things one step at a time. Do not overload your mind. Organization would help you avoid personal and professional chaos. When you are organized, it would help you to have a proper time management, because proper time management is an aspect of proper organization. Okay, so what are the things you need to do? Now let's talk about time management. Time management is another factor that help you to avoid or manage stress. This means that you need to make a list. Make a list. It might be a long or short one, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the content. It should be a list of what must be done, activities, what you would like to do. Identify and cut out time-wasting activities. Learn to drop unimportant things. Learn to say no to overwork or delegate them to other capable staff. Plan your day, set achievable goals. Make sure that the goals you're setting for yourself are not unattainable or unachievable. Be realistic in setting your goals. Don't waste time making excuses for not doing something. Don't do that. When you do that, you're putting yourself in a lot of problem. Now, ventilation is another aspect that we need to consider. They say that a problem shared is a problem halved, right? So develop a network through friends or colleagues to talk to. It's not always events that are stressful, but how we perceive them. We've said that time and time again in course of this class, that many times those things that stress us out are not really the events, not really those happenings around us, but it is maybe just the way we perceive them, the way we react to them. These are the things that stress the living light out of us. But then when we are able to share our problems with people who truly care about us, it can help us to see things from a different standpoint, a different perspective, and help us to cope better, or even to have a better strategy to manage the stress. Sometimes those things we see by ourselves might just be too overwhelming because we don't have someone else who would help us to look at it from another standpoint. So sharing our problems with trusted friends, not a lot, not everyone though, because there's some people who, when you share your problems with, they end up compounding it for you. They make it worse. I don't know if you've experienced something like that before. You share your concerns or your problems with someone, and the person ends up making it worse. So please, choose the persons you share your problems with, so that at the end of your sharing your problem, it will be halved and not multiplied. Very important. Very, very important. Okay, another thing we have to consider is diversions and distractions. Diversions and distractions. Okay, take time out. Get away from things that bothers you. Reduce stress level, calm down, be calming down. Sometimes calming down can help you to relieve yourself of stress. It will help you to stop being so tensed up, to help you to, just calm down, take a deep breath, take a cold bottle of something. If you like to take cold water, it could just help you to calm down. For me, what I take is green tea. I love to take green tea when I'm really tensed up, when I'm really, stressed out. It happens to everyone. Everybody gets stressed out from time to time. So for me, what helps me is green tea. I just take it and then, I breathe in and out. It really helps. Okay. And then when you think logically, start asking yourself, okay, it might just be that it is not the way I'm thinking it is. It might just be this other way. It could be this. Oh, maybe it's that. And you just try and think logically. It could help you to see things differently and then reduces your stress. Sometimes we worry too much about things that we shouldn't even worry so much about. So the logical thinking can help us to calm down and distract us from a lot of unnecessary stress. Change your lifestyle. Change your lifestyle. You need to change what you eat and how you eat. It's very important that you do that. Sometimes the kind of food we eat might not really be helping us. But when we want to reduce our stress level and we're trying to have what I call a general body overhauling, you might need to consider changing your diet. What about smoking? You need to do something about it. After all, the Federal Ministry of Health wants that smokers are liable to die young, right? Aha. Well, that might just be a good reason to quit smoking, not to reduce your alcohol intake. How often do you exercise? Some people will say, I don't need to exercise because my work is so stressful. That's not true. No matter how stressful your work is, it's very important that you get to exercise. When you exercise, you're doing yourself a lot of good because you're reducing that stress that is you're piling up from work or from any other external stressors that you're having. Exercise is very important. If you don't have the time to go to the gym, it is said that taking a 15 to 30 minutes walk, just walk. It might be brisk walk, it might be, just strolling, but make sure you take a 15 to 30 minutes walk. it could help you to relieve stress, and it is exercise. So consider exercising. If you can't jog and go to the gym, consider working. It's a very good form of exercise. Sleep. Try and get some sleep. When was the last time you enjoyed an uninterrupted 6, 7, or 8 hours of quality sleep? If you haven't, please consider doing that. It might just be that your stress level is increasing because you're not getting adequate sleep. So please consider getting enough sleep. Do you have a leisure time? Do you unwind? Do you relax? If you don't, please, it is very important that you do that. Very important that you get to relax and have to unwind, because I said all work and no play makes Jack or anyone else, put your name or put someone else's name there, a dull person. And it's really not so good when you get to work, and then you don't play. Okay, now here are other things you could do. Here are other things you could do when you're really stressed out and you need to calm down. You need to calm down. Here are other things you need to do. Well, before we consider these things, please, if you're in this class and you're going through a lot of stress, this class is for you, because it's going to help you to calm down. It's going to help you to relax. It's going to help you to see things from a different standpoint so that you don't get to continue stressing yourself out. Stress is very powerful, like we said before. Stress is so powerful, it can wreck you down. It can do a lot of things to you. Believe me, a lot of people go through a lot without knowing that all those things you're going through, taking medications upon medications upon medication that they really didn't need, was just because they were stressed out, and they never knew that all those things were just a product of stress. So please consider things you might do to help you reduce stress or cope with stress. And the final note, here are the alternative things that you could do to be able to manage stress. You could try conventional medicine. There's some medicine, some medication that you take that will help you sleep or help you relax, help you, just relax, okay? You could try conventional medicine. You could also try counseling and psychotherapy. Most people in Nigeria really do not subscribe to it, but it's very important because it's becoming more and more critical to our existence. And so a lot of people decide to try counseling or psychotherapy to help them, talk about their problems so that they'd be able to, calm down or see things from a different perspective and then reduce their level of stress. Relaxation, try and relax. We've said that before, you need to relax. Meditation is also very important. When you sit down, meditate on your life, what you've done, what you want to do, how you have been doing things, and what you need to improve on. Take stock of your life and arrange things in proper perspective. You will be able to relax, because you then see that some things you've been handling were probably not properly handled, and that's why you've been stressing yourself out. So meditation is very important. Yeah, this is my favorite part, massage. When was the last time you got a massage? A very thorough massage where you get relaxed. If you haven't gotten any, please try and get one. If you're very, very stressed, you need to get a massage, because it's something that can help you to relax. Yoga, some people practice yoga without the spiritual standpoint though. Some people practice yoga as a form of exercise where they get to stretch themselves and relax, think about nothing at the moment. Yoga helps a lot of people. Acupuncture is something that the Chinese people use as form of medicine because it helps to reduce stress, when you check through your meridians, there's some acupoints in the body that needs to be massaged or needs to, you know, they get to practice acupuncture on people. I'm talking about the Chinese, and it helps them a lot. And then when they do that, it helps to relieve them of stress, and then they don't get to take orthodox medicine all the time because they rely heavily on alternative medicine. So acupuncture might just be something you could try. What about aromatherapy? Sweet smell. Sweet smell helps to send a sort of stress relief sensors. You know, it helps you to relieve stress. You have this beautiful smell that, you know, relaxes you, listen to good music. These things help to relieve stress. So we have talked in general, in summary, we've talked about causes of stress, identification of stress triggers, ways to control stress, alternative methods, why we have stress, some of the things we can do to relieve stress, some of those things that causes our stress, and stress at the workplace, and a lot of other stuff. And then we have learned that we really need to manage our stress so we don't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by these things. When we are overwhelmed by stress, it will not help us to be productive. It will not help us to do things the right way. But managing our stress shows that we are emotionally intelligent. We don't allow things to overwhelm us so much that it starts to deteriorate our health. So that is why it is part of emotional intelligence. We all need to learn how our body functions, how we respond to things, how we react to things, and all of that, so that we'll be able to be better persons, both to ourselves and to other persons around us. It also help us to know how to relate with people, to help us to know how to calm down in the face of stress and worries, panics, and all of that. So that is how we come to the end of our class on stress management. I hope we've been able to learn one or two things that we intend to use in our homes, at work, and when we relate with other people. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them right now in the chat room. Drop your questions, or you can use the raise hand feature so we can talk before my time goes out. Thank you so much for being in class today. I enjoyed every aspect of this class, and I hope you did too. So I welcome your questions right now. Thank you. Okay, we have a hand up. Hope Mbachu, please could you unmute yourself? Please unmute yourself. Hope Mbachu, your hand is up. Could you please unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you very much, Princess. This lecture is really very effective, and it is a help actually to many of us. But I want to thank you so much, because this is amazing and excellent. It is realistic delivery that all of us have enjoyed. My question is, sometimes in this aspect, does it mean one cannot use any of the maybe supplements to calm down a stress? Hello?
I can hear you, please go ahead.
So my question is, does it mean after understanding all this, can one not add something like a supplement, natural supplement to calm stress?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your question, Ma. Thank you. Let me take us back to the alternative. Here, if you can see my screen, can you all see my screen? If you can see my screen, please type yes in the chat room. I want to know if we can see this particular screen. Can you see it? All right, thank you. All right, thank you for your question, ma'am. Now, if you see the screen, the number one item here is conventional medicine. One of the things people do when they are stressed out is to take some form of medicine. It might be supplements, it might be orthodox, it might be alternative medicine, but then they get to take medicine that would help them to relax, medicine that would help to calm the nerve, help them to, relax and sleep. Because sometimes when people are tensed up, it might just be that they have not been able to relax. They're so stressed out, they have not been able to relax. And when you take this supplement or medication, whatever form it is, it helps them to relax. So if this is your go-to, if you want to take medication as one of the alternative or one of the things you can do for yourself to relax, why not? You can absolutely take medication, but make sure that what you're taking, you're not self-medicating. You're taking medication based on the doctor's prescription, so you don't do overdose, so you don't go overboard because you're trying to solve a problem. You don't end up creating more problems for yourself. So yes, of course, you can take medication to relieve your stress. Thank you very much, Ma. Okay, so I'm back to the chat room to see if we have any questions. All right, thank you very much, Victor. Thank you. Okay. I thank you all for being in class today. Thank you for listening. And I'm going to, at this point, leave for the next person, the next consultant to take our class. Thank you once again and good afternoon. Mr. Benito, are you there?
Oh, yes, please, I'm here. Hello, Princess.
Oh, yeah. I just ended my class and I was handing over to
All right.
the next facilitator.
Okay, thank you so much for the class. And thanks to everyone for attending this morning section of the class. Please, we'll be going on break right now, and we'll be returning by 1:30 for the next section. So we'll be going on break now, and we'll be returning by 1:30. Please, we are having some technical difficulties today, so we've been trying to resolve that. So we've not been able to come up with the attendance due to the technical issue. It's just having some redirections. So we're working on that, and we hope to resolve that before the class is over today, or we'll find alternative. So with that being said, the next class will push up the attendance. Either would have resolved it or we'll find alternative. All right, so kindly bear with us. Please note the next class is 1:30. Just by 1:30, just be on, just find your, or just click on the link and join us in the class. Thank you so much, and see you by 1:30. To all the facilitators this morning, thank you so much. And for the ones coming by the afternoon session and evening session, thank you in advance. Thank you, Princess. Thank you, Mrs. Ifomeze, and thanks to every other person. Thanks for everyone who attended the morning section also. Thank you, and see you by 1:30. Bye-bye.